I think people are really surprised when they learn how politically active and politically conscious Madam C.J. Walker was. She had grown up in Delta, Louisiana, which is an area that was really racked with political violence. So I think this consciousness about the rights of African Americans was planted in her mind very early. As she became more powerful and as people called upon her to contribute to organizations like the NAACP, she wanted to make a difference and make people more conscious and try to help pass legislation that would make lynching a federal crime. In Harlem, there was a silent protest parade where 10,000 African Americans marched up Fifth Avenue. She was on the executive committee of the New York NAACP, which had organized that march. After this silent protest parade, she and a group of Harlem leaders traveled to Washington, D.C., hoping to meet with President Woodrow Wilson to persuade him to support legislation that would make lynching a federal crime. So she wanted to use the power of these hundreds of African American women who were her sales agents to speak out on political issues of the day to make a difference to race consciousness.
And now it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Madam C.J. Walker, a remarkable woman who changed the course of her life and thousands of others who were associated with her. Enjoy.
I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. No spoon at all, I guess. Mama said I was going to be her Christmas baby. But of course, I couldn't wait for Christmas. I came December 23rd, 1867. Mama said I'm going to be lucky because I was born free. I was given the name of Sarah, Sarah Breedlove. As far as I can remember, me and my sister Lavinia, we would play in the mud because it rained a lot down in Delta, Louisiana, down at Barney's place. As young as I was, Mama said, Sarah, get that book learning, Sarah. Learn how to read, write, and count. And mind nobody else's business except your own. You hear? I remember that. Then all of a sudden, my mama died. Daddy died right after my mama. Here I am about 7, I guess. Orphan. Me and Lavinia, we tried to fend for ourselves the best we could. Then we took the paddle boat across the Mississippi River into Vicksburg looking for my brother. But we ended up most of the times in the washerwoman's shanty shack, washing clothes, sunrise, the sunset, hands all wrinkled, backs on fire, feet on fire. Then I got married out of convenience, I guess, to get away from my mean brother-in-law. I got married to a nice gentleman by the name of Mr. Moses McWilliams. He worked at the sawmill on the other side of town. But one day, Mr. McWilliams went to work. He never did come back. We suspect he was lynched. We ain't sure. But back then, it wasn't safe for a colored man to be out. I never did talk about that for the rest of my life. And I had a little baby girl. Mr. McWilliams will never see his baby girl grow up. I named my little girl Leah. I said, I'm going to make sure that little girl learned to read, write, and count. So I got on the paddle boat, got out for the first stop, St. Louis. Didn't know nobody, didn't have no job, no money, nothing. But I went to the church, and they had rooms to rent. And she said, whenever you get the money, you can pay me. Oh, that was a godsend because I didn't have no money. And the church had a school. So I would put Leela in school while I would wash all day long, but I learned to read, write, and count right alongside Leela. Saved up enough money to send her off to college. Knoxville College, that was unheard of. Oh, I continued to wash clothes and saving every penny. Then a gentleman caught my eyes. His name was Mr. John Davis. And after a while, Mr. John Davis and I got married. He was bringing in $250 a week. I was bringing in $250. I said, John, how are we going to afford a big house like that one up on the hill? And how am I going to order nice dresses from the catalog. And how are we going to get furniture? Bring it in $250. That ain't enough, John. Said, at least we got money, Sarah. Some people ain't got no money. I said, John, but it ain't enough. I said, well, at least we got some, John. Then we started arguing about something we didn't even have, and that was money. So he said, well, I've had enough. I'm leaving. I said, well, good riddance. So he left. I continued on working, washing clothes. I said, Sarah, you got to do something, Sarah. But as time would have it, the World's Fair come through St. Louis. All the big time colored movers and shakers was there. W.B. Du Bois came, Booker T. Washington and his wife, Mary Church Terrell, Ida B. Wells, J.R. Clifford, Nanny Helen Burroughs. They all come through the World's Fair for the National Negro Economic Summit. They all got up and talked about how we can better ourselves and our race. But when it was time for Mrs. Booker T. Washington to speak, when she got up, I looked at her. She had the most beautiful dress. No wrinkles, no holes, nothing. String of pearls and her shoes shine and her hair's tucked in at the bottom. Her hair was so shiny, it looked like she brushed it 100 times. I'm so busy washing clothes, I ain't had time to be washing my hair and taking care of it. It's all dry and brittle and falling out. But when it was time for her to speak, she went up to the front and she had that book learning. She says, ladies and gentlemen, it is so important to send our children to college and professional schools so that they can become doctors, lawyers, teachers, business owners, and bankers. It's also important to send them off to, of course, trade schools so that they can become carpenters and cabinet makers and farmers. But mostly important than that, we should develop some kind of family business so that we can pass it on from generation to generation. And that way we can have our own wealth and develop economic independence. We won't have to depend on anyone for survival. I didn't hear no more, she said. Start some kind of business so that we can develop economic independence. I said, Sarah, you got to do something. I went home and got my bowl, and I stirred up everything I could. Salt, sugar, pepper, my lye soap, molasses. I went outside, I got some red clay, I mixed it all up. I said, now, Sarah, if the little bit of hair you got fall out on your pillow tomorrow morning, ain't nobody fault except your own. But I got to try it. I got to do something. So I put some on my hair. About a month, nothing happened. So I mixed it up again, nothing happened. I went to sleep and I had this dream. It was so real. All the ingredients I needed, I dreamt about it. I mixed it up and put it in there. I said, Sarah, here you go again. After about 2 months, I said, all right, Sarah. Let's see, Sarah, it should work by now. Let me look in the mirror. It worked. It worked. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. My hair was this long, I tell you, this long, dry and brittle. All right, Sarah, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? I says, all right. I think the other ladies might want some of this. So I put it in jars. After I finished my washing, I went out and I tried to sell some. I says, well, Sarah, what you got to do, I'm going to put on my best white blouse. And I'm going to put on my best black skirt. And then I'm going to go out and sell my product. That's what I'm going to do. So I put on my best white top and my black skirt, and I went out and I tried to sell. 3 months and nothing happened, but I went out every day because I knew something was going to happen. And after about 4 months, a lady says, well, I'll try something. My hair's not growing and it's falling out. I'll try it. And after about a month, she came back. She said, Sarah, Look at my hair, it's growing. What you have is good, Sarah. A lot of ladies want this, Sarah. I'll take 3 bottles. I said, thank you, thank you. Oh, and the ladies were lined up at my door when I woke up in the morning. Everybody wanted Sarah hair growing tonic. I said, all right, I have to get 4 ladies to help me. I'll take north, you go south, east, west, we'll cover all of St. Louis. Tell everybody get some. The money was rolling in, I tell you, the money was rolling in. And here comes Maggie Malone. This was a lady I used to help sell her hair grease. She said, you stole my ingredients. I'm going to take you to court and sue you. Oh, I knew I had to find some other place to go. My brother was in Denver, so he died a while back and left his widow and 2 daughters. So I went to Denver, new territory. Says, all right, let's see what I can do here. When I got there, the ladies found out that I was Sarah from St. Louis. They all lined up coming to get Sarah's hair tonic. Says, oh, things were clicking tight. Money was rolling in. And then, of course, a gentleman I knew from St. Louis came up to Denver. His name was Charles Joseph Walker. Everybody called him CJ. CJ and I, of course, I knew one another. We knew one another back in St. Louis. Then we got to talking, and pretty soon CJ and I got married. So I said, I don't want to call myself Mrs. Charles Joseph Walker, Mrs. CJ Walker. I want something that sounds important. I'm going to call myself Madam CJ Walker. That sounds important. So by now, Leela, of course, was out of college. She was a striking 6 feet tall, beautiful, and she had that book learning like Mrs. Booker T. She became the spokesperson for my company. I says, all right, Sarah, it's time to form a company and get some people around you who know all about the laws and the tax and everything. So I formed the Walker team. Says now, of course, Leela became the spokesperson for the company. Miss Alice Walker, of course, and Miss Violet Davis Reynolds. I met these 2 women at a convention. They, of course, would help me with the office and all the paperwork. Miss Alice Davis would take care of all the people who had mail order catalog orders, and keep all the papers and files and all the court documents. Miss Violet Davis Reynolds would travel with me. She would keep track of all my speaking engagements, and she would write those fancy speeches for me. Mr. Robert Lee Brockenberg and Mr. Freeman B. Ransom, 2 of the best colored lawyers in Denver. They knew all about the laws and the taxes. They would take care of the courts. And of course, the banks and anybody who wanted to sue the company, they would take care of things like that. Take care of all the money coming in and out. And then, of course, myself and CJ, we formed the Walker team. We met every week. We discussed all the money coming in, going out, the territories we were in, the territories we need to conquer. Oh, the monies were rolling in, I tell you. Things were clicking, things were clicking. Oh, I said, now, Madam CJ, it's time for you to enjoy some of this money. Leela certainly is enjoying the money. My daughter's wearing a turban hat with real diamonds and turquoise in it, having lavish parties every weekend, becoming the socialite. Says, Madam CJ, yep, it's time for you to enjoy some of this money. So I started wearing silk dresses. I says, now, don't do too much, Madam CJ. That little voice says, I says, oh no. You can enjoy some of this money, Madam CJ. And of course, the first thing I got was a string of pearls like Mrs. Booker T. Washington. Oh, that was nice. Started wearing gold watches and gold bangles. Says, don't do too much, Madam CJ. That little voice says, go on, Madam CJ. Started wearing diamonds. I said, now look at this. One time me and Lavinia didn't even have a good dress between the 2 of us. Here I am wearing diamonds. And of course, Leela, of course, made sure that, Mommy, you have to have a pedicure and you have to have a facial and you have to have makeup on. So I put on my makeup. Says, go on, Madam CJ, enjoy some of this money. Then, of course, I would wear hats with feathers on. If it didn't have any feathers on, I would say, put some feathers on it. When I go to a convention, they say, which one is Madam CJ? They said, see that one that's wearing the feather in her hat. Oh, then I had furs. I had a black fur, I had a white fur, I had a gray fur. I said, if there's any other color, I want that too. I said, nah, Madam CJ, go on, Madam CJ. Now, I always tell my workers and I always tell my team, don't ever hold your fist so tight. If you have the money, help the people. Seems like the more I gave away, the more that come back to me. They started calling me a philanthropist because I gave them to the NAACP, I gave to Tuskegee Institute, I gave to the shelter homes and schools and other colleges, YMCAs. Oh, wherever I could, I just gave away the money. I gave away the money to the Colored Women Association to help them to get women to vote. Oh, and we went, of course, to New York to have the silent protesting, of course, lynching. Nobody said a word. So they started calling me a social activist. I didn't consider myself a social activist. I just did whatever I could. Oh, of course, now it says, now, what you going to do now, Madam CJ? I says, I want to do one more thing. One more thing I want to do. I want to build myself a mansion. Something they would come from miles around, other cities and states and countries just to look at my mansion. And then, of course, we can have our conventions there. And, of course, I did. They said, Madam CJ, you're going to get your house all dirtied up? I says, no. Anybody can come and have their meeting here. This is not my house. This is the people's house. I just built this house to let people know that wherever you come from, that this can be done with hard work. It's not my house, it's for the people's house. Oh, so as time went on, of course, people would just call me to their conventions to speak, and CJ and I went across the country on the train with flyers to advertise the Madam CJ Walker Manufacturing Company. Oh, got real estate. Things were good. Things were clicking, I tell you. Things were rolling in. One last company note. I started my company with $1.50. Within a year, the hairculturists, the women in their salons, they were making between $25 and $35 a week. That was unheard of. My salespeople were making $2 to $10 a week. Within a year, I employed 1,000 salesperson, bringing in well over $1,000 a month. Things were clicking, I tell you, clicking. Within 6 years, 4,000 salesperson all over the United States. My factory employed 3,000. By 1918, I was bringing in well over $250,000 a year, on my way to making history and becoming the first Black female self-made millionaire. So goes the life of the rag to riches story of the first Black self-made millionaire, Madam CJ Walker, Sarah Breedlove McWilliams Davis Walker, America's first self-made millionaire.